to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
Dad, I have a simple math problem for you. If you have one rabbit in a hutch, and you add another rabbit, how many rabbits will you have?
Well, that's easy. You'll have 10.
10? No, you do not know much about math. You have 2.
Well, you don't know much about rabbits.
We're going to be talking about what to do when your loved one shuts down. I came across a webpage that had a letter from a parent that broke my heart, and that triggered us to want to do this episode. Dad, would you read that letter, please?
Sure. The letter says, "My daughter stated recently that she is asexual. I've read numerous books and watched the Gender Revolution documentary on National Geographic. I'm completely fine with all this news. The problem is she no longer wants anything to do with me or the other family members, including her twin brother.
Wow.
She says that she was never validated or loved by her family. She's almost 22 years old, and I never once had any indication that she felt so different." Those are her words, not mine. "I love my child. Help."
And then it was signed anonymous. Well, we don't know who wrote it, but boy, my heart goes out to this parent.
Of course.
I can completely understand. And I've had situations like this with my own kids. We can probably all fill in our own times where somebody in our life has shut down. And we wanted to open the dialogue. Just tell me what's going on. I'm trying to be here for you. I want to love you. I want to be a good parent for you. I'm doing everything that I can. I don't know what more to do. So we went back to one of our favorite resources. We've done past episodes from this book. It's called Crucial Conversations. It's one of my favorite books on how to have conversations when stakes are high and when emotions are also running really tense. And in this case, clearly the emotions from the daughter are very high. What strategies can we use to help draw her back out again?
You probably, in that book that you referred to earlier, you probably went through other techniques, for example, that you tried to do. You tried various ways to reach her, and it just didn't work. So rather than saying, "I can't do anything," here's one more. Let's see if this works.
Another tool for your toolkit.
Exactly.
Or kind of, in a sense, this is 4 tools for your toolkit that we're going to be going through here. And you can always come back to this episode if you're having something come up in the future. And this doesn't work just when somebody shuts down, but this can also be similar when somebody is blowing up. There's that part of our brain that they sometimes will call the lizard brain. In the past, I think I mistakenly referred to that as our amygdala. But I found out since then that it's actually our brainstem. It's the part that's most closely connected to our spinal cord. It's one of the most primal parts of our whole brain. And when we get triggered, it's the one that gives into our fight or flight response. Or sometimes now they've added or freeze, fight, flight, or freeze response.
Freezing is cool.
We've all seen people go through this, and we've all had it ourselves where you know what you do. When you get backed into a corner, either you lash out or you do your best to run away. Or if you can't do anything else, you just shut down entirely. And this is when you're on the other side saying, "I want to be there for you." These are the tools that you can use to help that person.
One of the things you could do is to try to open up the communication by saying right up front something that isn't going to be confrontational, something that is going to make them feel as though maybe they can speak to you without being punished or without being criticized. So you've got to set the mood in that particular case. So that's what we would call starting with understand it. You got to set that mood, and you come up with a phrase like, "Help me understand," etc. Or, "What's your take on this, on what's happening here?" Or, Can you walk me through your thinking about where you are on this thing? I just want to understand it. That is setting the stage.
In the book, they call this step the ask stage, that we're just trying to understand. Now, the critical thing here is that we're asking with a true sense of empathy. We're not coming in any kind of an accusatory way of, so what's the deal here? What's going on?
Right.
You know how much we've given to you over the years. What do you mean that you've always felt different? We've never treated you different. We've always validated you. No, that's not what we're doing.
Hey, I've tried everything here. What's the deal?
Right. We're doing our best to not make this about ourselves. And that's why we're coming with a phrase like this of, help me understand. And that's the one that I think of. I try to memorize one phrase. So when this comes up and I forget, oh, what do I want? If I can't think of anything else, if I can come back to that one phrase, help me understand how you're feeling right now or what's going on. I don't fully understand when you're telling me what's going on. And then I think of the story of what I saw as you were growing up. I'm not catching the connection here. Help me understand where your feelings are coming from.
And when I hear that, I would think, oh, they really want me to explain from an understanding point, not just shutting down, not just fighting back. But when you say, help me understand, it is, let me explain it to you, really. This is the way I feel. This is the kind of reaction I get. And when you say this, I feel as though you just don't respect me, etc. Those kinds of things will open a new door. When you say, help me understand, that is exactly what they want to hear. Tell me. Help me understand. I want to be the student here. Now you teach me.
So in this situation, we come to this asexual daughter who is having such difficulty. And we might say something like, help me understand what validation looks like for you. Or maybe walk me through what love felt like it was missing for you. What was lacking?
Yeah.
Help me understand.
It's all about questioning. It's not about coming back with your opinion and your demands or your put downs or anything else. It's all about just let's have that sincere conversation. Tell me the truth. What's the deal?
We all navigate our lives through the use of stories, but we don't understand somebody else's story frequently. So just like if you come in the middle of a movie and you say, what's happening? I don't understand. What's the deal? And you could imagine watching a scene from a movie, not knowing what came beforehand, but then when you find out, then, oh, that scene means one thing. But now imagine that somebody else went back and created a different movie beforehand for one of the other characters in the scene. And imagine how that scene would have a whole different meaning there. You would completely understand it in a different way. That's what we're looking to do, is we're looking to come with humility and say, I don't know. I don't have all the details. I don't have all the facts. I know what my side looks like. But clearly there's something for you where you're feeling like this situation is not safe, or you're feeling threatened. You're feeling like you can't truly, fully be yourself around me. And I want to start by giving you an opportunity to tell your story, because I probably have made it seem like I don't care, or I'm blowing you off, or something related to that.
Raya, have you ever experienced that?
You know, I have. A workshop that I was in was a group of people talking about transgender issues, and it was a broad spectrum of people, including many people that had some very negative, very transphobic viewpoints. And the facilitator was amazing. She's since then become a close friend of mine. The way that she conducted this workshop is she said, I would like us to go around And I would like each one of us to share our stories. Now, all we're going to do is share our own story. We're not going to talk about anybody else. We're not going to share feelings about anybody else, but you can share your own story, what happened to you, and how you felt. And I got to hear from probably some of the harshest critics of transgender people. And when they shared their story, it all of a sudden made sense why they were coming from where they were coming from. Now, it didn't make it okay, but had we gone on, that would have started the dialogue in a way that would make more sense. And then when I got to share my story, they were then able to hear and identify with me and understand what I had gone through. And it was one of the most healing experiences that I've had because everybody walked away feeling listened to. It was really phenomenal.
So that was a situation where it worked in a group session.
Yes, it sure did.
Wow.
And through that way of doing it, she was able to, in an environment that was highly contentious, to keep all of the contention away. That there was not any kind of argumentation or anything at all among some people that I'm not sure that I would normally feel safe around.
Uh-huh.
And it was really moving, really powerful. And I'm glad that I went. And I'm glad that those people got to hear my story.
So you actually have a personal testimony here that this can work.
Yes, it sure can. But it doesn't always work. Because lots of times we need more than just somebody asking us our story. I know when I feel really threatened, you can come and say, well, Raya, would you please share your story with me? Help me understand. And if I'm really feeling threatened, that will not be enough. I'll say, well, it's fine. Everything's fine. You've heard that before. Yeah. Everything's fine. Let's just be, can we just be done? Can we just not talk anymore? Obviously, there's more going on. What do we do next?
The people you're doing something with, and you have one point of view, and they have another point of view, and you're not getting anywhere. And finally they say, well, if you want to just go that way, well, then fine. But they don't really mean,
they do not.
If you want to do it that way, I think that's fine.
And that brings us to the next point here. The next strategy to help draw them out is to notice that disconnect. In the book, they call this the mirror principle. We look at what they're saying, but then we also notice what their body or their tone is showing. So, for instance, we might say something like, I understand, and I hear you saying that you're fine, but I notice that you seem really tense right now. Mm-hmm. Now, again, there's no judgment. We're doing our best for ourselves to keep our tone calm, easy, steady.
Yeah.
And we're only pointing to the fact. We might say something like, now, it seems like this is hitting you really hard. Or, I hear what you're saying, but something seems off here.
Mm-hmm.
What more are we missing? So we call attention to the disconnect in the most loving way that we can, and then we allow them to talk about it.
Right. Like the person in the letter said. She said, or he said, the father said, you're telling me you never felt loved? And I'm sitting here remembering all those moments when we thought we were showing love to you and we were sharing things. We did things together. We were camping. We were having a lot of fun. But there's a clear disconnect here.
I was in another workshop where this became relevant, actually with the same facilitator, because she's very good at this kind of thing. Again, we were talking about difficult issues. In this case, we were talking about racial issues and how marginalized racial minorities can oftentimes feel like well-meaning white folks can do really hurtful things. So again, a very difficult conversation. And the facilitator stopped and said, now I can see that from our body language here, some of us are not feeling comfortable. Stop for a moment. Pay attention to your body. Where do you feel in your body? Are you feeling tension right now? Are you feeling Anger, are you feeling something happening inside of your body? Let's stop for a moment. Let's pay attention to our bodies. And again, it helped to diffuse things, and it helped some of us to stop and say, I remember then one woman said, it is. I'm concerned about, and then she was able to from there share. But up until that point, she felt like she was shut down and she was not feeling confident to be able to speak forth. So just that one little bit of saying, I know we're saying this, but I'm noticing this, was enough to make it safe enough to get all of the information out and to be able to have a much better conversation than we had had up until that point.
Hi, I'm Andy Barrett, a Lutheran pastor and a supporter of this podcast. I see Transcendent as a ministry. I've pointed many people toward these recorded conversations full of so much heart and care and warmth, as well as some of Joe's jokes, which are hands down the worst part of this podcast. But even they make me smile. I'm one of the many genuinely blessed by Transcendent, and I encourage you to join me in supporting this podcast by giving as little as $3 a month. Go to transcendent.com and click support.
So you got to the point where you got them to open up. They're starting to share. Now you've got to reinforce that and make certain that you're going to continue to draw them out. How are you going to do that? Well, first of all, prove that you're listening. Make sure that they know you get it.
In the book, they call this paraphrase. This is the paraphrase section.
When you get it, they know you get it. Or you tell them, I get it, because you do something that communicates that to them. I was in church one time and a friend of mine gave the sermon that day in church. Afterward, I said, that was really well done. And she said, oh, I knew you thought that because I could tell you were really listening. So obviously, I had projected that just in my body language. And it's something I think we must do unconsciously, but I was really listening. And so she picked up on that. And I thought, wow, that was really interesting.
We do that in a lot of different ways, that we make eye contact. We continue making sure that they know we're not off looking at our phone. We're not looking at something else. We're not distracted. Now, in this case, I would hope that would never even cross your mind. If you're a parent like this parent that wrote this letter, obviously you're not going to bring in anything else to this conversation that would remotely threaten your relationship with your daughter. But yet we still sometimes will be more concerned about what we're going to say next. And so we're not even fully certain that we've understood them. And so you can do lots of things like you nod, yeah, as you're going. And that's just a little bit of feedback of saying, yes, I'm listening. But then we want to take it the next step and do what they will sometimes call active listening. The idea here is that you take what they have just told you, and now you say it back to them in your own words. And I remember when we were learning this principle, we felt like, this is so silly. You just told me exactly what you mean, and now you expect me to come back and say to you what you just told me. Oh, what a big hassle this is. It's making our conversation take longer, and we were not fully bought in, but we thought, well, okay, we'll try it. And so one of us made our point, and then the other one came back and said, oh, okay, so what you're saying is X, Y, and Z. And the other one said, no, actually, that's not what I meant by that. That's what you heard when I used those words. I can see now from how I said it, how you would get that. But no, that's not what I meant at all. What I actually meant was, and then we were able to clarify that. You have had that experience yourself. Every one of us has had the experience of telling somebody something that we thought was so clear, only to discover that they didn't understand at all what we meant.
That really is so critical, because when you discover that you both thought different things about the same subject about the same topic you were talking about, then something either lacked in the interpretation or the communication. Maybe the person that's communicating left out a part that would have changed the whole way the picture is.
Right.
Or maybe what you heard was only a piece, and one piece that they communicated to you, but you weren't listening at that point. You were thinking about what you were going to say next, which is the kind of thing that communicates you weren't really listening.
When I was in the year leading up to my transition, I went through such a struggle. And I remember sending an email to a friend of mine. And she read through the email, and her response to me was just active listening. And it was the best gift that anyone had ever given me. I read through, and she just said, here's what I hear you saying. I hear you saying this. I hear you saying this, and I hear you saying this. Again, not in the words that I had given her. It showed me that she was present with me, that she had heard me, that she cared about what I had to say, and that she understood it enough to, without adding anything additional to the meaning of what I told her, to communicate to me, I heard you. You have value to me. And the things that you said to me really matter. Even if you don't say one additional word other than just coming back with this active listening, that, in some circumstances, is all that you need to repair the relationship. I tell you, you cannot value active listening highly enough. It is one of the most critical skills that you can master for any kind of relationship building. So what would this look like in reference to this parent who's wondering what to do about their child?
At this point, the parent might say, so what I'm hearing is that even though I thought we were being supportive, something about what we expressed that didn't support didn't feel like love to you. Is that right? Is that what you're telling me?
Now, I could imagine if I was in the shoes of that daughter, having my parent that I felt like I was not loved, and then all of a sudden they come back and they say, what I'm hearing is that you didn't feel loved by us. Something that we did didn't feel loved. And how it would make me feel seen for the first time. Clearly, this daughter has a situation where she's feeling like, I've tried to tell you, and you didn't hear me beforehand. Probably they didn't. They didn't notice. They maybe heard the words, but they didn't hear the emotions. They didn't fully understand. One of the best ways that they can change this is to come back and make it very clear. I'm done with not listening to you, and I'm going to start by doing my best to give you my full undivided attention.
My real father and mother got a divorce when I was 6 years old. My memories of him were not very clear and not very friendly. I was happy when they got a divorce because I was happy that he was gone.
And you didn't see him much after he moved out at all, did you?
No, I saw him once. He came to visit me once when I was 9 years old. He was living in our area at the time. Then when I was old enough to get a car, I did see him once or twice a year. I would stop in. I never felt like we connected. After your sister was born, and we went down to see him, we stayed there for about 2 hours, maybe 3. And he would continually bring the whole conversation around my brother and what a great guy he was. He never seemed interested in me at all. Do you think I felt loved? Not at all. Not at all. But the fortunate thing is, the parents that I ended up with, I felt very loved.
And that is so critical. It would have just taken a small step, a small little change there, like the rudder of a boat, would have completely changed your relationship with him.
The thing that really bothered me was not that he didn't even show an interest in me, but he was well aware that we had 2 kids, and we sent him pictures, we did a variety of things, He didn't know either one of your names, his own grandchildren. He didn't even know your names.
Yeah. Now, these 3 are great strategies to start with. But what happens if these 3 are not enough? There is this 4th strategy that when the person is just refusing to talk, no matter what, you've tried to ask, help me understand. You've said, I notice how you're sitting, or I notice your body language, I notice your tone of voice, I notice whatever, and that was not enough to draw them out. You've done your best to paraphrase back to them from what they've told you, and that's not enough. Sometimes they just completely clam up.
So what you do is you help them find the words. They call that priming. It comes from priming a pump. When I was a kid, I went to school in a one-room schoolhouse. They chose us to go out and get water. So if I got chosen, I had a pail, and I went out to the pump. Next to the pump, there was another smaller pail with a dipper in it. And you would take the dipper and pour the dipper into the top of the pump. The water would run down inside, because if you didn't do that, the diaphragm wouldn't be able to suck the water up and get it started. That's what it took. So you had to prime it by putting water around it so that water sealed it. And then you would pump and pump and pump, and pretty soon the water would come out. Then it was easy. And you would keep doing it until you could fill the pail and bring it in.
But if you didn't prime it, the water wouldn't come out no matter how much you pumped. Is that how those work? Wow.
You just keep pumping, and it's like pumping air, because that's exactly what you're doing.
Wow. I didn't realize that it was that much.
Yeah.
But that's how conversations can be sometimes as well. That we do our best to make it as easy as we can for the person, but sometimes we need to start the conversation. So when they're still stuck, you offer gentle possibilities to react. So you might use simple phrases like, I'm wondering if maybe, and then you put forth a tentative explanation. Or could it be that you're concerned about, is it possible that the way that you're feeling is...
So you're planting potential thoughts into their head that the things like, is it possible you're feeling? Oh, no, it's not that at all. Well, could it be? And you get them to start thinking, and hopefully that will bring out a part of the conversation, that piece that's been missing.
In reference to the letter, this parent might come back and say, I'm wondering if maybe when we tried to be supportive, it felt like we were trying to fix you instead of just accepting you. Or they might say something like, could it be that our questions, instead of coming across as actual love, they came across more like doubt? Or instead of coming across as curiosity, they came across more like skepticism? Is that maybe some of what's going on here?
Yes, it could be, certainly, right.
I remember with one of my kids, many of my kids were this way, but one in particular that I have in mind would frequently come to me and would say, I need to talk about something. Okay. And so I would clear my schedule and we would sit down and talk. And then they would sit there quietly, just kind of looking at me. And I would say, I'm ready whenever you're ready. And then they would continue to look and continue to look and continue to look. And I would say, I would have to prime the conversation. I don't know what's going on, but is it possible that you're having an issue at school? No, it's not about school. No, typically, I was wrong. Okay. All right, not that one. Okay. Is it possible that this has something to do with how you're feeling with one of your friends? Kind of. Okay. Is it a romantic issue? No, it's not a romantic thing. Is it somebody that's around in our area? And anyway, so then I would kind of go through, and then by priming the pump, usually it took about 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
And then they would get so frustrated with me that I was getting it wrong, but clearly from a place of wanting to understand, that they would say, okay, here's what's really going on. And that's what would draw out the story.
The priming the pump. Priming the pump is really critical when all else fails. If you've done some of these things earlier that we talk about, you won't have to prime the pump, maybe. Or maybe you've given a little bit and you stop pumping for a while, and you may have to prime again. But the whole analogy is correct. When all else fails, try priming the pump. So we hope we've given you some tools that you might use. If you've had an opportunity to try something like this, write us and tell us. If you tried this and it didn't work, we want to hear that too. Write us at transcendent@gmail.com. We read every one of those. And our whole purpose is to keep families together, saving lives one podcast at a time. If you believe in this vision, we would be so grateful if you were to share this with another person. If each of you shares this with just one person, we double our audience.
We're grateful to have you coming back every Monday as we bring you this positivity so that you can keep your relationship strong. And with that,
we'll see you Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to the next point. It sounded like I did not do active listening.